I'm Douglas Katz. I am the chef owner of Fire Food and Drink at Shaker Square in Cleveland, Ohio. I am the owner or proprietor of the Katz Club Diner in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and I'm the chef partner of Provenance at the Cleveland Museum of Art. My passion really extends from cooking, which is really what my earliest passion was, to really community engagement and really working with the community to enliven or ignite my passion. Cooking is my passion, but as I've worked in my restaurant and as I've cooked in my restaurant and I've connected with local farmers, with local people in the community, it really invigorates my passion and brings that to life in so many other dimensions. One of the most memorable engagements that I had as it relates to my passion is when I started to use local farmers at my restaurant, Fire. And I connected with the person who supplies our wood. We would get a standard delivery every couple weeks, and one particular day the Ray, who's our wood guy, didn't show up, and I was really upset about it because he was so consistent with his deliveries, and I didn't know what happened. I called several times and didn't get an answer, and he happened to show up 2 days later and said that unfortunately his wife had been hit in a collision and she had passed away. And just the feeling I had in my stomach when that happened, I realized that I was not just a business person connecting with this person in the community to get me something. It was really about connecting with a human in our community, and that relationship meant so much more to me when I knew what had happened, and it just gave me so much more empathy for him and his situation, and it made me want to do business with him more. And it gave me more passion. Every time I would load our tandoor oven with a piece of wood, I thought of Ray. Every time I would see the wood pile, I thought of Ray. And so I thought those connections are the ones that really invigorate my passion each day. And the more farmers and the more community people that I could connect with, the better, because that would just make my life fulfilled. I opened the Katz Club Diner. We happen to be sitting in my diner car. And I live actually about 5 blocks down the road from here. And my diner has been 5 different other businesses since it opened. And a person who lives down the street from me, Steve Presser, who owns Big Fun, he has been a staple in our community and someone who's brought toys to the kids in our community through his store. And he opened these diner cars, moved a diner car from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and from Berwick, Pennsylvania, to this location, and put in a 3,000 square foot kitchen. The reason I love this building is because of the kitchen. We do a lot of off-premise catering for my business, and so we decided to purchase the building and move in, but we didn't want to leave the diner cars empty just because we were doing catering. So I decided to open a diner and a bar car to really invigorate this community in Cleveland Heights. It's an area that is not as well traveled as some other areas, and I thought by bringing my name and my reputation to this location, it would really help invigorate the street a bit. And we've really done that. We have a great coffee counter that brings people in each day. We have a diner where people can enjoy really great quality local food. And we have a bar car that brings people together at night and in an atmosphere that is really unique to the area. I've located my businesses within a very tight area of Cleveland, and I think growing up in Cleveland and going out of town for many different experiences. I lived in Portland, Oregon, I lived in Aspen, Colorado, and Boston, Massachusetts. I learned that living in Cleveland, first of all, I was so passionate about Cleveland, and I love the fact that it's such a small community, but there is so much that happens here, and you can really make such a great impact in a small community like this. I've located my businesses within 5 minutes of each other. University Circle is where I have the restaurant at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Shaker Square is about 5 minutes from University Circle, and my diner is about 5 minutes from University Circle. I really love the connection, this triangle that I have in this neighborhood, where I can really connect with the community in a much deeper level. If I had restaurants all over town, it would be much harder for me to make those connections. I'd be in my car driving too much, and I love biking or walking in the neighborhood and seeing what's happening on my street, and if someone's renovating a house or fixing up a garden. I think University Circle, just seeing the excitement there with Case Western Reserve University, with the Cleveland Clinic, with University Hospital, with Uptown, with Mocha. There's so much happening, and I think what I appreciate is that so much is happening in this little tiny area, and it's making that area just shine and blow up. And I think that's so important in our communities in Cleveland, to really take an area and do as much as you can. Similar to my Beyond mentality, I think you really have to go beyond and really make a neighborhood so special. And so to me, having my businesses located in this way, I've often thought of creating a map of really special places, really authentic places in our community that you can connect to either by walking, by driving, or by biking. And so that's a goal that I have, is to make this map so that people visiting our community can really see the nooks and crannies or the gems of our area. I think when we're talking about connecting with community, I think the most important thing that a community has that drives it is authenticity. And I think a community, and for me to be passionate about something, I think people coming to that community, coming to that discussion, have to have some authenticity. They have to take pride in what they're doing. There has to be a level of pride for what has happened before. And I think that what guides me really is, I love the detail, and I don't need to create this huge 500-story building. Sort of, to me, it's what I can bring to the table just makes it a little bit better. And I think everyone has to feel that way in a community. When I landscaped the diner, when I first came in to this community, the first thing I wanted to do was to beautify the landscape. I felt that would really it's almost a gift that I could bring to the neighborhood, where the building would look much happier, and it would give the building more of a soul. And I think you have to have soul, you have to have authenticity, and you have to have pride for what you're doing. And it's the little things that really get us going. And I think as long as people in the community bring those little things together, then you make a big thing. And I think of a potluck dinner. If you all come together and bring a little piece of it, it's so much better than having one person make that whole dinner and work so hard, and then you have this guilt that you're at their house and you're enjoying it, but that person worked so hard. A potluck just sort of is a perfect example of how to build community. As a chef in this community, I think it's important for me to give back to our community. And so one way that I can do that is by using my kitchen to really educate students and educate to have teachers bring their students to our kitchen. And one thing that we really love doing at Fire and at the diner, at Fire we have a foreign language class that comes to us most every year. We also have a sustainability group that comes most every year. And we teach them how a kitchen runs, and we show them the kitchen, and we tour the kitchen and show them the local food that we procure. And we teach them how the kitchen has to be organized and clean, and how to work in a kitchen as a professional environment. And we teach them how the division of labor within a kitchen really makes a kitchen efficient. So there's so many things that someone from the outside doesn't understand when they come into a restaurant to eat. And so these students really get a backdoor look really into how a kitchen works. They are able to put a lunch or a meal together as a team of about 18 students, and we put the food together and serve it. And when you see these kids in the faces, and you see them eating chicken livers for the first time, or you see them eating eggs that are just sunny side up or over easy, where they're not cooked all the way, you realize that the passion and the education really teaches students about their passions. And once they're passionate about something and they own it, then they are much more interested in trying something. If they are participatory in something, then they want to really enjoy the fruits of their labor. We do this at the diner as well. We have a local gardener who brings herbs and vegetables to us, and we've cooked those items, and the kids will help us cook, and they sit in the diner atmosphere, and it just really brings the community together, and it's a way that I can give back. If I were to think of things that I really value and that I would want other people to understand in their lives, I think the word beyond is really, to me, what inspires me. And I think in terms of food, in terms of my day-to-day life, I think you have to think beyond or outside of the box. And beyond refers to, in terms of being beyond organic or beyond local. When I'm purchasing food, I don't want to know that it's organic. I want to know my farmer. I want to know where my food comes from. I want to connect with that person and know that that person has so much passion and so much care in what they do that it's beyond the requirements. When you're thinking outside of the box, when we're doing a catering job for someone, I want to know that we're going beyond just the expectation. I want to know that the expectations are being exceeded in every way. We go to someone's house and we'll do a party for 40 people, and I actually love washing dishes at the end of the night or cleaning the floor, and I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor because I know that they'll look at that the next day and they'll say, wow, that person really cared about coming into my home and doing this function for me. So I really think you can't just meet expectations in any way. You really have to think of how you can exceed those, and I think my passion really drives me to exceed those, and that's where I feel fulfillment. And I think with anything, if you have that drive, that will really separate you from the pack. If I were to give advice to entrepreneurs or people who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs today, I think I've mentioned drive before, and I think it's really important to have that drive. I think I learned at a very early age, because of my love for food, I learned really how to deal with adversity in a way. I was a very fat kid, and I was not the one who was chosen for off the bench first for sports. I was one that was teased often because of the way my body looked, and I think that I learned at an early age how to deal with it, that unfairness in a way, and I think that it really gave me a thick skin. It gave me a stone foundation really for dealing with things when they don't go right. And so I think making mistakes, and I think learning from those mistakes is probably the most important thing that an entrepreneur can do. And I think you have to be so patient, and you have to be willing to let these mistakes carry out, so that you can see sort of the time that it takes to really work these mistakes out. The longer it takes, I feel, the more you will learn. And unfortunately, it can be really hard to be patient. But I think if you're patient and you just do things with deep thought and really clear understanding, you will learn so much from those mistakes. So I think really don't be afraid to make mistakes, and really it allows you too to have stamina to make it through really, really difficult times. And I think as an entrepreneur, that is probably the most important thing that you can have is to be able to be patient and to deal with really difficult times, and you will ultimately get through them. I think through my life experiences, I have had a lot of time to think internally, to think, and so that has really developed my creativity. I think it's something that, because I had a lot of alone time, I think that I was often able to really overthink things or analyze things, and it's something that has just become a part of my makeup. I think it really gives me that gift of creativity, because I'm always thinking outside of the box and thinking about how to change something or how to make it better, because I've had that practice of thinking through things. And I do that really internally. And I also do it with other people, and I love to share my ideas with people and see what their thoughts are. And a bigger reaction I can get, the better. I love debating. I love talking through things. It teaches me so much. And I think to develop creativity, you really have to share with other people, because you learn so much from them. And don't be afraid to take ideas from other people that you can tweak and remold. And I think really just, as long as your passion is invigorated, I think that your creativity really can be so much more. When you're not feeling good, or you're, and I should say too, I exercise a lot, and I think exercise really helps me invigorate that passion and the creativity. I feel so much better after a run. I feel, another tangent, I love going to Colorado, and I feel this open blue sky, and I feel the mountains, and I feel this great air, and I feel like after a run you often will feel that same way. And I think those times are really, you have to get away from your day-to-day life in order to expand your creativity. And I think whether you're leaving your neighborhood or whether you're going to have a great coffee somewhere, you really need to leave that rhythm for at least a half hour to an hour, so that you can really invigorate that passion and that creativity. I'm lucky in my job. I work in a kitchen that is, and that's a very sort of independent opportunity to, it's an independent job, but you also have a lot of people around you that are working at the same time. I love that focus when I'm working on something, and I tune everyone else out. But I also have the opportunity when people are dining in my restaurant, or when my employees are asking questions. I love connecting, because I think it's an important learning opportunity for me. It's something that I think it's very safe to stay inside and to not connect with people, but I think one of the most invigorating things, I love going to my restaurant on a Saturday night and walking around to the tables. I could feel a little depressed in the afternoon on a Saturday, and I go to work, and I feel so invigorated when I start talking to people and hearing about what they're doing or something that they can bring to my experience. And so I think you can't be afraid to open up and to connect with others. And it's easy to say that, but I think I had some acting experience when I was little too, and I think that really, I think you sometimes have to walk the walk, as they say, and I think you just have to try it, and once you start doing it or practicing it, it'll be much easier, and you just have to figure out how you can, whether it's a cup of coffee that invigorates you, that allows you to talk to people. I think just keep your head up, look people in the eye, and it starts the conversation, and then you can realize after a conversation you are so much happier for the day because you connected. You also learn something that can add to your experience. As a chef, you experience days where the team really works together as a perfect machine, and then other times as a chef you realize there are pieces that are not quite working well. And I think in my experience, working as a team, it's the most fulfilling time. I think when you cook in a kitchen, there's a division of labor where certain people are cutting vegetables for a stock, and that stock is being used to make a sauce. Someone's sauteing a steak, and that sauce that's been made is used on that steak. And then someone else makes a butter that enhances the flavor of that, and someone else makes a vegetable. So when you're working in a kitchen and you have clear organization up front, and everyone knows what their role is and what to do, and they've been trained properly and they have great technique, there's nothing better than finishing that experience and looking back and saying, wow, that was really outside, that was just so special. And that's what I really live for. And I can talk to people all day long, but the thing that I love most is cooking in a kitchen with others and having that experience and working really, really hard to complete maybe a catered dinner for 400 people, which we did last night, and to have all of the pieces fit together and to have the dinner go out smoothly and to have everyone assist. And you really have to be a part of the team if that's going to work. You can't think of how unfair something is. You always have to give a little bit more. And I think, again, that beyond comes back into play, where go beyond what the expectation is and do a little bit more, and you'll see how much more that impacts you and how much more fulfilled and more passionate you will feel. As I am so involved in so many different aspects of our community, I feel that it makes me think of how I started out in this business. And I think at an early age I learned that my reputation was really everything. And I think as I did things, I think I wanted to improve my reputation, and I wanted people to respect what I was doing. So no matter how hard it got, I started out as a young chef. I was 30 years old, and I had a crew of people who, some were 45 years old, some were 50 years old. And I learned at an early age I'm not always going to earn the respect from people because of my age. But if I do things the way that I believe they should be done, it works itself out, and you earn that respect from those people. And you learn too that some people just are not going to be a part of your team, and they're not ones that will necessarily you'll connect with long term. That doesn't mean that you're not doing something correctly. You have to believe enough in your map or your roadmap so that you can keep going along that path. And I think for me, because of all the things I'm connected with in my community, whether I'm hiring an employee or where I'm working next to an employee or I'm talking to a guest, my reputation really has given me that I have a certain level of expectation from everyone else in my community to support local organizations, to be a part of a neighborhood, to bring as much experience as I can to others. And I think people value that, and they give back to me because I have that level of connection with my community. Culinary craft is really, I think it's created based on the team that you have. And so I think team is really, you have to put together a team that aligns with you and with how you feel about things. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in agreement. In a way, it's better to have people who are on different sides of that box so that they can bring interesting things to the team. But to me, the basis is creating a team that really works well together, and that's how you make change, and that's how things happen that are so much more special than just the run-of-the-mill. When building a team, I think you have to make people feel comfortable in your interaction. Say you're interviewing someone, maybe a new student who just graduated from college. You have to give that person a sense of support and of connectedness to you, so that that person will open up to you and give you all of the information that that person could give as part of that team. So once you can do that, you can really evaluate whether that's a good person for your team or not. You have to create questioning that really allows someone to open up, so that you know how that person will react within difficult situations. You have to ask pointed questions when you're creating a team. So many of these things, I think, are just a part of who I am because of my life experience, but I think everyone brings life experience. And if you think of who you would want on your team, you really have to get at questions that help find those people. And when you have the perfect team, that is how you can move forward with, and you can exceed expectation, and you can do so much more. In my team, skills are probably the least important thing. To me, as part of my team, I want to see passion. I want to see happy interaction. I want to see people who are willing to work very hard. So I want to hear that experience when I'm talking to people. Skills are things that can be taught to a certain extent. If I'm interviewing someone, that person usually already has a basic level of skill. I look for other people's opinions when I'm interviewing people, and I think so that person who I'm interviewing has to have great references. I want to dig deep when I'm talking to people about references. So I really look for someone who's open or optimistic and who sees much more beyond and much more out of the box. If I see someone who doesn't think that way, then I'm not sure I really want to align myself with that team, because I don't know that you really have the potential to exceed that expectation. We live in a very exciting time in our world. I think things are changing faster every day. I think if I were to look to the future to see how I can impact that future, I think every day I'm learning so much, whether it's computer-based technology learning. I always try and latch on to those things and learn as much as possible about things. I say in my restaurant, we put a cheese plate on the menu so that I could learn about cheese. I didn't really know that much about cheese before I did that. Once I put a cheese plate on the menu, I learned about cheese and the differences. So I really try and take advantage of all the new technology, of all the new things that are happening. If there's a new restaurant, I go and I experience it. If there's someone new in the community that's doing something great, I try and experience it. If there's an art gallery opening, I go. So I really try to be a part of everything. For the future, for me, I think there will be so much more collaboration. There will be maybe more long-distance learning. I think that though community is very important, the way we've created it, I think the inauthentic communities that we've created, the places that don't feel good, the places that are, I think of urban sprawl. I think of the places where people are in terms of a town center. I think we're going to get back to that, back to parks, back to the nature, back to places that feel really good, and where people have so many choices as to where they want to work, where they want to live. We're so much more mobile. So I think the future really is about recreating neighborhoods, recreating parks, and a life for yourself that feels really good, so that you can do so much more with your life. I think we created a life, unfortunately, maybe in the 50s and 60s, that was not fulfilling. And so we would go to work and come home and we'd be miserable, and we couldn't really expand and do as much as we could if we were happy. So I live in Cleveland Heights really because I live near parks, I live near communities, I live near authenticity, and I'm not really hiding in a place where you can't experience that. And there's good and there's bad, but I think you have to experience life in order to give to the future and make it that much better. One thing that I like about connecting, and we happen to be sitting, I'm communicating to you my visions and my passions, and I feel that what drives me is hearing from others as well. So if there's something that I've said or something that you've heard that you either question or that you have any responses to, I would love to see or hear those. So feel free to reach out and let me know what you think.